Hi, today's guest is Noah Boyd, former FBI agent, and the topic is about his book, The Bricklayer, which is a criminal terrorism extortion plot. It's very interesting, and I definitely enjoyed it. And this is Mr. Boyd. And so, Mr. Boyd, how did you get started in writing?
It was 1986. The Bureau was asked to send some agents out to Seattle to work on the Green River murders. So they handpicked 10 agents from around the Bureau and sent us out there. While I was out there for 3 months, I had a lot of time to think about things. And when I got home, I decided that I needed to do something else. My mind worked fine for the FBI stuff, but I thought I need to exercise in some different directions. So I went to the local adult education school and asked if they had a math class, and they said, not one that would fit you this quarter. I said, well, what do you have? And they said, well, we got creative writing. So I enrolled in the class, and the teacher was a woman named Nettie Jones. She was publishing her second novel at the time, and after our first assignment, which is a 3-page short story, she said, with your life experience and the way you write, you could do this professionally. So the next thing I wrote was the beginning of my first book, and that led to it being published while I was still an FBI agent, which I think I'm still the only FBI agent to ever publish a book while he was employed as an agent. In fact, the Bureau told me I couldn't publish it. And I said, well, I think I can. And they said, well, we're going to charge you with insubordination. There'll be an investigation. I said, well, go ahead. I said, we'll let the lawyers fight it out. So eventually they recanted and told me that if I retired at the first possible moment, they would drop the insubordination investigation. So a writer was born.
So how close to reality then as an FBI agent is the plot of the book?
Some of it's based in reality. The stuff I try to tell, the inside information about law enforcement and how different agencies interact, how street agents feel about management, how management can obstruct the investigation. I think a lot of that is real. Of course, the plot is somewhat contrived to keep the reader's attention, of course.
And so what is the plot of the book? You mentioned extortion. And
there's a group of, well, the bricklayer is an individual named Stephen Vale. He was an agent. He was fired for insubordination. And he's working as a bricklayer now rather than having a day-to-day boss. He'd rather work on his own. That's how recalcitrant he is. And all of a sudden there's a group demanding millions of dollars from the FBI to stop. They're killing high-profile people, and they're demanding millions of dollars to stop the killings. So because of some special talents Vale has, he's recruited by a deputy assistant director named Kate Bannon, who's the female interest in the book. And the two of them, she goes to Chicago to recruit him, and the two of them go off to L.A. to solve the case.
And so one of my curiosities relative to the book is, who would you have play Kate Bannon if you were able to get it into a movie?
Well, there's already been, we've been approached, and the producer who's approached my agent has an Oscar for producing movies.
Yeah.
And he has already got a commitment from, well, I'm probably not supposed to tell this, but the heck. It's Charlize Theron.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So she's committed. They have a screenwriter aboard who wrote a screenplay for her that I think she was nominated for another Oscar for.
Well, it's definitely a book that I would go see the movie.
I think it is cinematic. That's just the way I write. Not that I ever pictured, Joe Blow being the lead or anything like that. But I think a lot of writers, especially today, see books cinematically. I mean, that's just the way they play them in their head. As writers have to, or I think this generation of writers have to do, just to see them go from A to Z plot-wise.
I mean, a sense of your experience now as a writer, if there were young people out there that want to learn how to write or begin to write, what would you suggest for them?
Well, I'm not your typical writer. In fact, I usually refer to myself as a literary grifter. I don't believe that a writer should be a celebrity. It's not why I do it. This book is not in my real name. I was hoping I wouldn't be doing publicity, so I was kind of excited about that. But that didn't work out. But I think I'm fortunate. I've lived all these things. I mean, to a reasonable degree. I would tell people, go out and live a life, enjoy a life, fill it with as much adventure you can, and then write about it.
Okay.
My supervisor came up to me when my first book was being published. He came up to me and he said, "Geez, you're getting a book published." And he was a good agent. He said he'd solved a lot of kidnappings and extortions. He said, "That's really exciting." I said, "How can that be exciting? I'm making up stories now about what I used to really do. I mean, how is that exciting?" But and a lot, very few writers have experienced anything near what they write about. So I'm fortunate, but I would tell people to go out and get some experience. There's the first rule of writing, and the first thing you ever hear is write what you know about. Well, I mean, how do you know about these things unless you experience them? And I'm not just talking about the FBI. I'm talking about anything. I mean, Steinbeck did the same thing. I mean, he when he wrote The Grapes of Wrath, he went out with those people and lived with them for 6 months. Right. I mean, he experienced all that. So I think that's the best advice I can give is go out and experience these things. Just don't sit in a room and do your research on the internet. Or
do you think that's how you make parts of it, to me, and to seem real? I mean, that's what I really felt was in certain parts of the book. There's a certain realness to actually what it's almost like you're reporting as opposed to writing in a sense. Do you know what I'm saying? And that to me was valuable.
And I appreciate it because that's a great compliment, especially when you're writing fiction. And like I said, there's devices in there that I obviously learned about from the Marines while I was in the Marine Corps. Punji sticks, claymores.
Well, that was actually the part that I was thinking about that I found to be almost. That's one of the parts where in the book I want to see it as a movie. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It sort of got that suspense edge to it, and the sort of considerations of locked in for the rest of his life if
right.
if things don't work out, and how does he keep his cool and.
I think